С небывалым азартом вошла в игру, снегом талым на завтра пошла ко дну. Слетела с катушек, на почве быть ему нужна. Стало очень душно, теперь точно в клочья душу. Но его глаза манят, зовут назад, но уже нельзя строго и до конца. Мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя. Последствия война на всех фронтах, это из-за тебя. Мое сердце в бинтах, мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя. Мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя. Последствия война на всех фронтах, это из-за тебя. Мое сердце в бинтах, мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя. Разрываясь осколками прямо в грудь, наши чувства уже их нам не вернуть. Снова заточишь, а сердце лезвие эти с порезом третий. Зря я попала в сети, но его глаза манят, зовут назад, но уже нельзя строго и до конца. Мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя. Последствия война на всех фронтах, это из-за тебя. Мое сердце в бинтах, мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя. Мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя. Последствия война на всех фронтах, это из-за тебя. Мое сердце в бинтах, мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя. Мое сердце не гранит, меня теряя в этом танце. Я буду той, кто сегодня не спит, а ты носи с собой холод пальцев. Сегодня я тебе бросаю вызов, ведь ты был лучшим из моих капризов. Мораль взорвана, но было здорово, только теперь мое сердце забинтовано. Мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя. Последствия война на всех фронтах, это из-за тебя. Мое сердце в бинтах, мое сердце в бинтах, это из-за тебя.
So, I don't know, you probably maybe have saw the press conference. 2Pac finally came out of hiding.
Yeah.
The revelation.
The shattered dreams of a broken heart.
10 days. If I died in 10 days.
What does it mean if I fall apart?
If I died in 10 days.
Being tortured, screaming in the dark is a guarantee to be a broken heart. A broken heart as I fall apart, fell apart. Broken heart.
Breaking mirrors, the broken glass, picking up the pieces. Broken mirror, broken glass. My antithesis. Why didn't I see this coming true? If the devil himself in your bedroom, what would you do? Trying to sleep, but it's hard to sleep. I'm having visions of wicked men killing Christians, listening to politicians. So I grabbed a pen and started writing. Imagine fighting Count Dracula after seeing someone stabbing you in the face. Would you die for the human race, or would you escape? Just be trapped in a different place. The United States of America don't care if you're one of the poor. They'd much rather ignore. What am I fighting for? To bring war to the races. I hate this world we're living in, feels like the Matrix. Please take this bloody game away from me, cause all I do is try to be the savior. See my broken heart.
The shattered dreams of a broken heart.
If I died in 10 days.
What does it mean if I fall apart?
If I died in 10 days.
Being tortured, screaming in the dark is a guarantee to be a broken heart. A broken heart as I fall apart, fell apart. Broken heart.
Jeepers, creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Jeepers, creepers, where'd you get those eyes?
Welcome to the Legendary Creatures. In this episode, we'll talk about werewolves. The werewolf is among the most terrifying and captivating of mythological creatures. But what do we really know about werewolves? A werewolf, also known as a lycanthrope, is a mythological or folkloric human with the ability to shapeshift into a wolf or anthropomorphic wolf-like creature, either deliberately or after being placed under a curse or affliction via bite or scratch from a werewolf. The popular definition of a werewolf is a man who transforms himself into a wolf or is transformed into a wolf under the influence of the full moon. The werewolf is generally held as a European character, although its lore spread through the world in later times. Shapeshifters similar to werewolves are common in tales from all over the world and most notably amongst Native Americans, though most of them involved animal forms other than wolves. The myth of the werewolf exists in almost all cultures of the world under a variety of names. Most well known are Wendigo, Rougarou, Mycob, Varkalak, Vilcaces, and the list goes on. According to folklore, werepersons are always appallingly dangerous in their bestial form, and may even eat their own human children or other relatives. Some of the first references to man changing into wolves are found in ancient Roman and Greek literature and mythology. For example, in the 2nd century BC, the Greek geographer Pausanias relates the story of Lycaon, who was transformed into a wolf because he had ritually murdered a child. In accounts by the Bibliotheca and Ovid Metamorphosis, Lycaon served human flesh to Zeus and was transformed as punishment for the crime of cannibalism and impiety. During the Middle Ages, Europe was under the dark shadow of superstition. Towns were underdeveloped and people lived near the woods. The fear of wolves was like a nightmare. This was compounded by the fear of black magic, and as a result, many were accused of witchcraft. In France alone, between 1520 and 1630, some 30,000 individuals were labeled as werewolves. One of the most lurid and famous werewolf trials in history was in Germany, that of Peter Stube in 1589. Under the threat of torture, Peter confessed to killing and eating 14 children and 2 pregnant women along with their fetuses. His execution on October 31st, 1589 was one of the most brutal on record. I will spare you the gruesome details, but feel free to look it up if you are so inclined. The most famous methods for curing a victim of a werewolf were medicinal, usually via the use of wolfsbane, surgical, or by exorcism. As with most surgical procedures from that era, the cures advocated by medieval medicinal practitioners often proved to be fatal to the patients. In present day, most fiction describes werewolves as vulnerable to silver weapons, but highly resistant to other injuries. This feature does not appear in stories about werewolves before the 19th century. Unlike vampires, werewolves are not generally thought to be harmed by religious artifacts, such as the crucifix or holy water. The first feature film to use anthropomorphic werewolves was Werewolf in London in 1935, which stands as the base of a growing number of fans for such films. Maybe you remember the comedy horror film An American Werewolf in London, or the cult film Wolf, in which Jack Nicholson played one of the best roles of his life. To this day, werewolves are among the favorite characters for games, artists, and literature. In seriousness, I must close with the following disclaimer. Remember that if your neighbor tries to bite you or starts howling to the full moon, you should fetch a priest or get out the wolfsbane, because he or she might be suffering from clinical lycanthropy. Stay tuned for another episode of Legendary Creatures, because next time we'll talk about Kelpies.